Colin was a foundation member.
Yeah, he's a charter member. Yeah.
Charter member.
So Colin, if you can tell us how you got started in the Lions department and getting things probably up and going, how you started.
Can you hear Brett, Colin?
Yep, I want to get rid of my bottom plate.
Oh, right. Okay. Ed, that's edited stuff.
How it started, I'd been in Apex for 14 years, and you get kicked out of Apex when you turn 40.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when Donnybrook Club was going, and John Richards came up. He's passed on now. And I can't remember how long. I know when Apex started, Bruce James and somebody else from Bunbury came out, and it was 6 months before the Apex started at least. And I can't recall when the Lions actually started. And I gave a lot of information to Bruce, and he's mislaid it by the sound of it, which would have been old dinner letters and all those things that had. But Mike Ravening was the inaugural president and charter president, to my knowledge. You can probably delete this, but he lived out a place called Elsewhere. And I don't know who was secretary, I can't recall that at all. But I was treasurer. So that's what started me at Apex. Yep. Plus, at least in Lions, but that was after I lost my wife, and so I had kids were away at school, so I had a bit of time in my hands. First gathering was around about 81, 82 at the Donnybrook Hotel, and Max Locke was a publican. He joined the club. I'm pretty sure we met there. And I think we even had a few dinners at the railway at one stage. Yeah. But the Boyne-Up Club, but John Richards, every time he came along, he'd bring a box of fruit. And I knew whether we raffled or what. I just completely forget what happens. Well, that's about. Oh, I went to a hell of a lot of conventions for Lions. Things in that mug there. I did a lot in Apex too. But, so that's about all I can hear you tell you the truth.
Cool, that's fine.
Oh, and I remember the Historical Society.
Right. You still a member of the Historical Society? Yeah.
He's a prime exhibit, aren't you?
And Bruce, how did you get involved?
Well, I was going to suggest you go to Barry next. He joined us before I became a member of the club, so he can probably provide you some of the information that Colin was thinking about.
I first joined Lions in Roban in 1980, and I often told the story that the guest speaker at that meeting was POM, and he said it was great to see so many active community service organisations in Australia. He said what happened in England, governments come along to sort of fill the functions that had been performed by those organisations, and they'd gone by the board. And at that stage, Donnybrook had a Rotary and an Apex, and Lions was formed in 1982. So it has sort of similar things happened here, but I think with things that are happening, I think the importance of community service organisations as an ability to just get things done is becoming more important than ever. Yeah. But I'd been a member in Roban, and then I left when we went to Coates Island, and we came back to Perth, and I joined the Lions Club in Gosmels, and when we moved down here in 1988, I transferred to Donnybrook, and I left for a while, but then I joined back up in 1992. And I was treasurer at one stage, I was president, and before I was president, I did the Lions leadership training down at Albany, and that had a big influence on my life, you'd have to say, because out of that year I was president, this club instigated the Lions Community Expo as a sort of basically a membership drive for community organisations generally. And I guess that was successful. It brought other community organisations together, and really that sort of influenced the thinking that brought about Donnybrook Bayonet Community Radio, which is very much a pride to the Lions Club of Donnybrook.
Which is great. Yeah. And Bruce, how did you?
Well, I'm a relatively youngster, I suppose, because I joined the club in 1994. So I had a history a bit similar to Colin's. Colin was actually my sponsor into Apex way back in 1974 or 3 or something or other. And so I'd been an Apexian until 1987 when, as he said, I turned 40, and that became the end of my time in Apex. It's a young men's service organisation. That was their policy at the time. So I actually didn't join Lions until 1994. I was elected to council in 1984 and became deputy president in 85 or 86 and then president in 87. And so I do recall Colin saying to me, though, when I left Apex, he said, after the Lions Club had started, I remember Colin saying to me, when you're ready, just give me a ring. So that was always there in the back of my mind, but at that time there was quite a lot going on, so it wasn't until 94 that I joined. And what the story about that was that as a Shire president and involved with the community, you were active and you were doing lots of things and so on. It was all very interesting. But after a while, there was this experience that I had from somewhere that there was something missing and I was not quite really sure what it was. And then I remember about 4 o'clock in the morning, I sort of almost like sat bolt upright in bed, and it's like, I got it. I know what it is now. What's missing are those experiences and involvements we had back on those Apex days. Both the formality, the informality of that, and the friendships you made and so on. And so it was straight away, it was give Sharpie a ring. And that's what I did. So by then we're up to 1994, and so I was inducted at the changeover meeting, as they call it, which is where our officers change at the end of each Lions year, which is from beginning of July to the end of June, at a function that was held in the old football club rooms. And Tess Leadham actually inducted me. Tess was Clive's wife. And of course, they'd been members of the Lions for ages and ages prior to that, so I was really young. So over the years, I think I've had been most of the office bearers in the club. I was a district governor from in 2004 and 2005. So, and had the good fortune, if you like, to be inducted as district governor in Detroit. That was where that year the international convention was held, and the DGs are all inducted at the international convention, wherever it is. And it'll be in the US, which of course is where Lions originated from 1 year, and the next year it'll be offshore, as they refer to it. Well, just my luck was that it was onshore. It was in Detroit. So I got a trip to Detroit. And since then I've been a member of the district cabinet until 2015. Well, I had been a member prior to that actually, but been in the area of membership and leadership and so on, and I conducted leadership programs for probably 10 years until about 2014, I suppose. And but by then it was like time to back off a little, and so I've been a member of the club ever since and active in the club, but I haven't been a member at what we're calling our Lions district level. So that's sort of nutshell my history, I suppose. But it has provided those elements that I had distinguished as perhaps missing earlier on before I joined Lions. And I always remember Colin's comment, just all he ever said to me was, when you're ready, give me a ring. And so there was 7 years went by between the time I left Apex to the time I joined Lions, but it was there when in my moment of need, if you like, when I could see it could bring something to my life.
Right. Did it change in lifestyle?
Not really. We were still farming, so that all stayed the same. And it was always, in many cases, and still is in some way, still a scramble to sort of fit everything together.
Yeah.
But you're committed and you're getting something from it, so you make it work.
Yeah. And yourselves?
So, Clive Reid. I first involved in a country organisation called, it was Junior Farmers, later to be known as Rural Youth. And at that particular point in time, at 25, you actually like Apex, you get kicked out. So most of the people who are in junior farmers then went and joined Lions. Lions was sort of springy. And I joined Lions in 1972, the Lions Club of Dardenough. I then spent 10 years, 20 years there, and my wife, Tess, we moved down to Boynup in 1990 and joined Borders Dunn was a bit different. It was only an all-male club, and Tess didn't quite fit in too well there. So she was a fairly determined lady, as Ruth would say. She actually chartered another Lions Club with females in Bunbury, and she became charter president of that. And then we moved to Boynup, and I live in Boynup, and in 2000, I actually joined Lions Club of Donnybrook, and during that period, like Bruce, I had the opportunity to be district governor in 1988 at a very young age of only 42, and that was experience of my lifetime. I got inducted in Denver, Colorado, and likewise spent. This is I'm entering now my 54th year in Lions, but what I do now, I'm still very heavily involved, but not involved to the point where I'm encouraging others to achieve what I've achieved. And I've taken a role the last 20 odd years now, in particular the last 10 years. I'm basically the West Australian state historian. I've been last 20 years been writing the history of Lions clubs in West Australia, bringing up where Lions clubs were, how many there were, what was going on. For example, I can give you a list now of the 12,514 Lions Club presidents and secretaries that ever served in the 214 Lions Clubs that have ever been chartered in West Australia. So I've written hundreds of thousands of words over the last 20 years, and my main role today is encouraging others to achieve what I have achieved, but stepping back, but using my resources and knowledge to basically taking the role as a historian of West Australia.
Yeah. You mean to go to that?
And it's very rewarding because you meet a lot of chaps. Sometimes you see some name there, you say, well, I remember him, he was on my district cabinet, or, is he still here? I wonder what he's doing now, or whatever. And it's very rewarding. And if we don't preserve this history now, it will be lost forever. And what we have done is we have a committee which has actually, we've got a website. We're getting a website now which will have all this information on it, and you'll be able to go online, Lions Club members, and trigger your own situation where you've been in Lions Clubs you want to know about, all that sort of information. Millions of items on there that within the next 12 months will be operating.
Beautiful.
That's basically my spiel. Well, yeah.
Very good.
If I could just get back to the start of this club, I think that's what we're really here about today. As before I came to it, I learned when I became a Lion that really there was Colin Sharp and Rodney Grist and a third person who had been ex-Apexians, who in my mind were always the ones accountable for the formation of a Lions club. Like they enjoyed their time in a young men's service organisation, which was Apex, and they then got to the point where they couldn't be part of that organisation, and so they went on in time, looked for and found Lions, for which they could then carry on that same type of service in their community.
Yeah.
So, on our charter up there, all those names are mentioned, and so Colin will be forever known as a charter member of this club in 1982. and the chartered dinner actually, which is part of the formality of becoming a club, was held in April of 1983. So since that time, the Lions Club developed and evolved, and the last count I can record, at least 160 people have been through the club as members. We have a membership at the moment here in 2025 of 11. A couple out there in the wings. And outside of our membership, we always have our Lions, friends of Lions out there that help with things here and there. For their own reasons, don't actually become members. So, for me, those three people, you'll have to remind me of the third one was Colin, were the principal originators of the club.
So, next question was, so for those who don't know what the Lions Club is and the role you guys play in the Donnybrook area, can you tell me a little bit about your role in the community?
I think the important aspect of the Lions Club that people might know is that, with charities, people, the Lions organisation specifically set up with their own activities account and a members account. So any money public money that goes into Lions is for return to the community. It isn't swallowed up in the administration of the organisation, which I think is a quite distinction between a lot of charities that have all sorts of employees. So I think that's an important point that people might know about. But at different times in our history, we've done different things. We've had a food van for a while. It ran the cardboard recycling, instigated the containers for change. At the moment, we let go of the containers for change. We're sort of looking for a new direction, and basically we've picked up the Donnybrook Station Market as a monthly project, and so I guess that'll be our new direction in terms of fundraising. But I think it has potential there because we're always looking for new members, and it sort of puts us in, makes the club more visible. So hopefully it'll attract people, and there's a lot of people coming to Donnybrook for the lifestyle, but pretty much that's been created by organisations like Lions. So to continue that, it's really important to welcome new people into the club. In terms of projects, Bruce, do you want to?
Well, I was going to add to what Barry was saying that in Lions, the ethos behind the formation of Lions way back in 1917 was that it was a service organisation for members of the community to volunteer their time to support the community in whatever capacity. And so all those projects that we've done over time have been in some way to develop some part of the town in some way or to support people within it. We raise money, as Barry said, but basically we are, in a sense, a conduit between raising the money and providing it to a project somewhere around the town. Yeah. When I first joined the club, the major aspiration that was then a part of the club was to build a suspension bridge across the river. And one of our members, Des Zapiazzi, championed that for many years. There was already money in a term deposit at the time to supposedly to build to the point where we could actually do it. Over time, though, we got to see that it was just going to be bigger than Ben Hur as far as the club was concerned, and the capacity was probably going to be beyond the club to ever do that. And so eventually the Shire picked that project up as part of the regeneration of the main street in 2003, 2004, and so the bridge was built about that time with grant funding and what have you. So the aspiration was there, and we can, I think, probably rightfully claim that the idea originally came from members of this club, seeing something that they felt the town could use to advantage, and certainly that has been the case for that project. But everything we do basically has, Barry mentions the projects that we're doing or have done. And the most recent one, of course, is we've taken on the managing of the town markets because the structure behind that originally collapsed. Some funding dropped or fell away there, and so the markets looked like they were going to fold. So we said, okay, we'll put a hand up and take on the management of them. And so we've only had 2 of them so far, but it doesn't involve a lot of time really. It's only really an effort for 1 day a month. And but as secretary of the club, it does involve more than that. But you do that as part of your volunteering time to support the organisation of the town.
The Lions organisation was formed in 1917 in Chicago, and it's basically successful business people wanting to return something to their community, and the ethics pretty much revolve around ethical business sort of ideals. And that's why in community radio we see that, which is a product. It's a separate entity, but it's very much a product to the Donnybrook Lions Club, and we see that as a business community partnership. We look to business and community to sponsor us to pay our bills, but we encourage our listeners to support local business and community organisations.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just leading with that again. That's a classic case of what I was just talking about. We allowed the community radio who were looking for a home to use part of our club rooms here, and so the front of the building was developed, so they put their studio in there. We have a nice little arrangement where they technically lease it from us, but so it's one of those arrangements where they look after our power charge here and we give them the room for nothing. So it serves them, serves us, and we can be part of that project that supports the community of Donnybrook.
You'd seed funding for the community radio. Once we incorporated, the Lions provided seed funding, and they've been supporters ever since. So it's a valued relationship. The Christmas Fair was a Rotary project started in 1965, and when Rotary folded, Lions picked that up and continued to run it. And that we also ran the carols by candlelights, and the carols and the fair sort of melded into one event that the Lions still runs that. So a long time we ran a seniors picnic, which for Christmas, which haven't done for the last few years, but maybe if we build our numbers up again, we can give that one a go. What are the other things, the regular things that we do?
Did the recycling out the back out here?
Yeah.
The cardboard and the plastic, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, well, they were opportunities that came along when Visi was operating in town, and they were wanting to get out of managing their own cardboard waste and what have you, and they offered the opportunity to the Lions Club, so we took that on. And our self-interest, I suppose, was we saw it as a way of raising funding, which we then going back into the community in some shape or form. So that was in 1998, and that lasted until about 5 years ago now, when the price of recycled products collapsed, and it was costing us money to keep it going. So, but the other side effect of that was not only was it sort of giving us an opportunity to raise some money that we could put back into the town, it was also keeping that waste material out of our landfill site, or the Shire didn't have to fund another service to get rid of it to somewhere else, to another collector somewhere. So that was quite a major contribution that we made for quite a long period of time to the community. So it supported the Shire in many ways, and it also gave us the opportunity to raise some funding, and there was quite serious money made out of that initially. Likewise, we took on the Cash for Cans project in 1993, I think it was, 92 perhaps.
2000.
At the time, we were looking for something to replace the cardboard recycling project, and Cash for Cans came along, and so we did that for 4 years. And again, I think that provided an opportunity for the community as well to actually get rid of their cans that way and make some money out of them that could go back into the town. And that was very, very well supported for that period of time, but it became overwhelming in many ways for the club. It just got bigger than Ben-Hur. And so fortunately we were able to sell our way out of it to another provider who now runs it. So that is really one of the concepts of Lions. They'll see opportunities in the community. They'll go in there and tackle them and set something up, and then pass it on to someone else for it to continue, and then we go on and look for something else now that we can develop or evolve in a sense. Going from Cash for Cans to running the markets is a classic case of how things tend to move and shape over time.
We've also got the barbecue trailer, so the old Lion sausage sizzle things, but at the Anzac Day we cook the gunfire breakfasts and the lunch, and Australia Day and other things like that we generally cook for, and we've got other non-Lions members who support us in those sort of projects as well.
So I guess the Lions Club's filling a gap there to have these functions evolve or actually, happen. Other than that, probably with the way volunteering is these days, where there tends to be less enthusiasm for people to volunteer generally, you fall back to the local authority to be running those events. So, I guess that's the lazy way of doing it, but you just pay for that in your rates and so on for that to happen. So this is a way where, we're not relying on that to be that way, and in fact we'll volunteer and set up and run these projects, and make a bit of money out of the community as well that can then get feed back into various areas of need.
It's one of the strengths of the Lions organisations, the insurance. So, it provides cover, and there's opportunities for people who have a particular project involved to get involved in Lions. And if the Lions Club adopts that project as a club project, well, then that sort of tends to come under the existing insurance, which is always a big issue these days.
While their fundraising is a priority for Lions clubs, basically their priority has been to look after less fortunate in the community and those who really need help and are struggling and don't have a family or whatever, and look after those individual people.
Well, it's rather ironic that it is sort of the genesis of what we are, if you like, but the opportunity for providing those sorts of services like mowing a lawn, for instance, or chopping wood, to support an elderly person, for instance, in the community, are less available now because of accountability and all sorts of things at government level, which precludes us from being able to use a chainsaw, for instance, and so on. So we aren't really doing, in many ways, as a club, the sorts of things we used to do back in the early days of Lions, and certainly back in the Apex days. And, there was a real sense of self-worth in going out and knowing that you've helped someone over some of these small chores,
And chop a load of wood for somebody.
Yeah, a load of wood, or you might even go out and garden for a morning, 3 or 4 of you. And that really sort of, contributes something to your self-worth, knowing that you've helped a person. So those opportunities are not really the sorts of things we do very much of anymore, which is a bit unfortunate. Because you've got other government organisations out there that are now doing those things where payment is required, of course, for them to happen. So in some ways it's a bit disappointing, but that's the way the wheels turn. But we still have our eye out for that sort of thing. There are other ways in which we can support people. Sometimes people who are in town that are even short of cash, for instance, the Lions Club, there's a bit of a vetting process that goes on outside of Lions before there'd be a reference or a call on Lions perhaps to support it, an urgent case of that sort of thing.
Yeah, CRC's been very good.
Yeah, we have a good relationship with the CRC, and that usually is where that becomes the first port of call for many people. Yeah. And they'll do what they can, but if there's an urgency for, say, $100, somewhere like that, cash to actually get food, quite often they'll ask the Lions if we can make that contribution, and we do that.
Because the Lions Christmas cake's been an ongoing project. That's a fundraiser that we sell them at Christmas, and some find their way into Christmas hampers.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, we always get the Christmas fruit cakes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we probably purchase $5,000 or $6,000 worth of cakes, which we then sell, and we probably ought to make more profit than we do from them. But we that's just how it is. But we do make money out of it. It's a money raiser. It's like a national project across the country. So the cakes are made in Melbourne. So again, very often the thought in the background is a way of us to make money, but it actually provides something else as well.
Yeah.
So we should not forget that. And then Barry mentioned hampers. The club's got into, because one of the members brought the idea to the club that we perhaps should be considering supporting underprivileged, in whatever way that is, by provision of Christmas hampers. So we do 30, 40 of them every year now. A lot of what goes in them is donated. We purchase a lot of it, but that's something that's very, very gratefully received and acknowledged.
Lovely, I didn't know that you had this, man. So, we know a bit about the past Lions Club. Where do you think the Lions Club will be going in the future? Especially the Donnybrook side of things.
Well, hopefully we'll grow. I guess it's, there's so many organisations in town, and in some ways, the men's sheep is sort of draw membership that in the past might have come into Lions, but there's a place for all these organisations. They have different niches. I'm optimistic that just having a presence at the market will help to bring new people. I know that the community radio have a presence there, and just by being there, it's brought in 3 or 4 really good members. So hopefully the same thing will happen to the Lions, and with people moving to town, getting involved in something like Lions is a good way to become part of it.
Unfortunately, I think our club's succumbing in some ways to one of the old issues that has always been around Lions, is that our membership is getting a bit older, and we're probably less able to do some things than we were. Lions generally has been finally going around the country and around the world. The membership internationally is maintaining itself. In fact, it is growing a little. But nationally in Australia, the issue of membership is always something we've been actively engaging with as something we need to maintain, or otherwise in time will fade away. And I don't see that happening here in Donnybrook, but it may be we don't have a membership of 35 like we used to have, or when we chartered a membership that was about that size. We now have 11 members, we're all pretty active, and but we just do need to be aware that we need to spend a bit of time thinking about it, or otherwise in time we will fade away.
And you look at CWA, that sort of been very active in Donnybrook. It did fade away, but it's reactivated. So you didn't just a matter of getting a few key people in and younger people. Because it tends to be, if you get seen as an old people's organisation, it's hard to attract young people. But if you can get a few key younger people involved, when that just changes the whole perception of the organisation.
Yeah. And what would you say to the younger people that may want to come into the organisation, take over?
Well, you don't have to take over to start with. But I think the Lions
need to change, I think.
Yeah.
In some ways, we need to change our the structure to suit becoming organisations like our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, because there's going to be a different world on iPhones and Zoom, and technology is yet to be invented, and that sort of thing. So we have to change to suit a changing world.
But at the same time, the core values of community remain the same, and I think at the end of the day, with all the technology in the world, human relations about talking to people, and I think we're supposed to talk to each other, not text each other, and if it creates, we're I guess it's a continual reinvention sort of thing, and coming to where other people are at, but in all the time things are going well, maybe people don't see the need for these organisations, but if we go to harder times, then they'd become even more important. Lions was formed in 1917. It's a pretty grim period in history.
The leadership training inside Lions is quite strong and deliberate. And back in 2004, when I was DG, for instance, the training at the international level was around this issue of membership, and also the acknowledgement that we were going to have to change and adapt to new circumstances as we progressed, with the impact that technology makes and so on, and the impact that people's lives are changed by their involvement in the world these days, and the time they have available and all that sort of thing. So Lions has itself tried to be innovative, if you like, in that area, and then it gets back to the individuals at a club like our own to actually take on some of the new ideas and see the point of them and the need for them.
But what we can see with change is that you look back to the year I was district governor, that was 1988. The year before that, from 1917 to 1987, during that period, Lions could only be membership by men. And the constitution was changed at the Taipei International Convention in 1987 to actually allow women to become members of Lions clubs. Well, there was a hue and cry, column if I remember it, about women joining Lions, but it's not talked about today, and it's been one of the better things they've ever done. But was probably integrated a bit quickly, but it needs to be done likewise with changes in the future.
I just want to go back to maybe some stories you guys might have over your time. Maybe some funny stories, if as a group, that you can remember from your time here.
What sort of stories? What
Moments.
Funny moments, sorry, from your time
Well,
that you can tell the public.
well, it's always one thing that you can remember on an occasion. And I was a district governor, of course. You have to visit every Lions Club within the district, which was south of Great Eastern Highway and the Swan River. There's something like 75 Lions Clubs. Where I did that, I went to the Lions Club of Williams, and I got there a bit early one night. Didn't know how long it would take me to get there. And this guy came in early to the actual meeting, and he got a drink, and I had a drink, and he said to me, "You come to the meeting tonight, have you?" And I said, "Yes." He says, "Oh, gee, mate." I said, "What's wrong?" He said, "You picked the wrong night." He says, "Why is that?" He said, "We've got district governor coming tonight." That actually happened. I was a district governor. And there's some things you sort of stick in your mind that never forget.
Yeah, you know, back in the APEX days, keep referring back to that, and Colin does a bit too, because we used to have good times when you're out, like carting hay on a weekend, for instance, to raise a bit of money in those days. And there was always a sit down at the end of it all, and you're all worn out, but you all enjoyed a drink and went home happy and cheerful. But we don't seem to have those same sorts of opportunities, I suppose, these days, or we certainly don't create them. And I must admit, in this club, you know, alcohol is something that hasn't really been part of the club for a long time now. Certainly in the past it was, and it can be now, but we don't have, people usually have a drink, you know, before a meeting and so on and after, but this club hasn't been like that for probably 20 years. I don't know why that is. And we used to meet in the hotel for quite a long period of time when I was, in the early days I was a member of the club. So I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing, but it's just a circumstance. Perhaps some of the stories you heard and so on happened back in those days, but I don't know whether it's made a difference or not. But so the project opportunity, I guess, for, you know, creating relationships and telling yarns and telling of the things that happen on the day, you know, perhaps don't occur as much as they used to. Because
That's right, probably. You're online now, that's right.
Well, it might be, but you know, the story in Lions is, you know, you've got to have fun, or be a member of any organisation, you need to have fun. But I think there's three other words that are more important than just fun. Like, they need to be rewarding and satisfying and fulfilling, and that'll bring you back to an organisation. Because a lot of the work we do is not fun. You know, it's hard work. Just sitting around here organising things and during event times and so on. It's hard work, but it's fulfilling and it's rewarding and satisfying. And that's what I think the key elements to being a member of any organisation. They need to provide those elements to you for you to stay part of them.
Yeah.
Well said. All right. So you could sum up the spirit of Donnybrook Lions Club in a few words. How would you go?
Well, the Lions motto is "We serve." I guess that's part of it, isn't it?
Resilient, I'd say we are. We're active. You know, in our world, we think we're active anyway. You know, whether we're visible to others out there or not, I'm unsure. But our purpose is to try to be visible and active, and like making a contribution.
Perhaps we need to promote ourselves more. It tends to be perhaps that we get taken for granted, but if we weren't here, I think Donnybrook would be a lesser place than it is. So I guess that's
I can say that the community regards the Lions Club as a valuable entity within itself. There's never any criticism of Lions. There's always an acknowledgement of the club and what it offers and provides, which is very satisfying when you're part of it.
I think the Lions leadership, that sort of, I wouldn't be doing things I'm doing now if it wasn't for the Lions leadership training. So, people, it's giving something to the community, but people grow out of their own life, grows out of that experience.
Is that something you run through the local Donnybrook Lions here? The leadership training? Is that something
We don't do much of it here, but there's the opportunity for members to attend leadership training at the next level, at the district level, if you like.
Yeah.
It could be done here, but because the members probably aren't, there aren't many of us, it doesn't sort of happen to the same extent. But it could happen. But there are members in the club who've, attended leadership training programs, and I gave them for 10 years for the district, and even at the Mulwood district, that's in the national level for a while when I was membership development officer or something. So it's not that the experience is not there. Yeah, it is leadership really, but we tend not to see it amongst you are providing leadership, but you tend not to see it as that or give it for that reason. It's there to do, and you just do it. You don't have to have an excuse or a reason, you just do it.
I think sort of leadership within community is important, and in some ways, in the past, there's Apex and rural youth, and they provided leaders at higher levels. So if we don't have leadership training at grassroots levels, then we end up with a society that's sort of not necessarily led by people with the right ethos.
Yeah. So last question, James. So why do you think it's important to record and share the club's story for future generations?
I think all history is important. If we don't learn from history, we repeat the errors of the past, and I think that's where I guess we're becoming elders. But and there's lots of focus on young people, and the future's young people. The old people know stuff, and the Aboriginal people talk about their elders, and I think it's important to listen to elders because they know stuff that young people don't necessarily know. They don't know.
Well, this Lions Club now is a bit over 40 years old, and it's made a significant contribution to this community. If it ceased existing today, there's a contribution that is made that's been valuable. And, in time, there may be a story that can be told about the contribution the Lions Club made. Now, I'm suggesting the Lions Club is going to finish tomorrow, but it'll go on. But there is a story that's there to be told, and I think we should record, as we're doing, a lot of that information that about our early part of the club, because people tend to forget it. Like even here today, there's a few elements of it perhaps that we've missed or have forgotten about. So in that regard, I think it's pretty valuable that we do form or create some sort of a record of where we've been and where we come from.
On that one, it's the trails around town. That was Al Idrisi project. So it was one member, but he drove the project, and there's a number of trails around Donnybrook that was driven by Alf.
Walking trails.
Walking trails, yeah.
And then there's an issue. We formed them out there, and some of them are in what land that was referred to as System 6 land because it's environmentally sensitive. And we're not allowed actually in there now to do any work on the trails because Big Brother's deemed that that would violate the regulations that are in place there now to protect it. So it can only ever be done with the authority of the Shire Council.
At great expense to the taxpayer.
Yeah, so there's one of the ironies, if you like, and it perhaps wraps up nicely the things we were talking about earlier that we were able to do, which we now can't. So that's in its own way constraining, if you like. But, we just have to find other things that are valuable for us and others.
So So that, I think that's about all the questions I have for you, gents. You've summed up Lions Club quite well for me, I think, and community. So is there anything else you wanted to maybe bring out to the public and see that you maybe don't think they're seeing at the moment?
Well, come and have a look. Come and join us.
How can they get involved? How can they come and learn about the Lions Club? What's the best way for people?
Well, we have this website they can get onto there. We try to create those public spaces where people can observe us, if you like. So website, use the press and press as regularly as we can. Advertise events and the venues and one thing or another.
And the markets. We'll be at the markets. So.
That's right. It's just like being out there. Basically, is probably the best marketing for us that we can do. So
It all starts with the conversation.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah. And that's the case. The markets are a case where all those vendors are very appreciative of the fact that we stepped in, because they were seeing the thing all going to fall away for them as well, but the opportunity for them was going to disappear. So there's been a lot of gratitude for the fact we put our hand up and said, okay, we'll keep it going. So that's, that happens regularly. They're held on Saturday morning every third Saturday in the month, excepting for December when we'll have a twilight market, which is, in this case, this year is on Friday night, the 12th of December, and we'll forego the event that happens on the third Saturday, which is the 20th. But on that night, we're having our Christmas carols night, so we're out there again.